Good afternoon and welcome to Newsbeat. This is a live broadcast from our studios at North Region, Accra. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Let's take a look at our top stories this hour. National Labour Commission is urging striking teacher unions to rescind their decisions and return to the classrooms. We gauge the mood in some schools across the country. As the team from the International Monetary Fund arrives in Ghana today, more calls are being made for the finance minister to resign. Tuesday morning's downpour leaves several parts of the capital flooded. Will engage the Ghana Meteorological Agency on the forecast in the month of July. On the international front, gunman opens fire on a crowd gathered for an Independence Day parade outside of Chicago, killing at least 6 people and wounding 36. Details are coming up shortly. Stay with us. Many thanks for joining us this afternoon. Now, the National Labour Commission has called on the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations, the Ministry of Education and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to urgently engage the 4 teacher unions currently on strike. In a statement released by the Labour Commission, the Executive Secretary Ofusua Samoa urged teachers to rescind their decision to make way for negotiations.
To go on strike while to back their demand. We have accordingly heard them. We are privy to the press conference. We have since had copies of the release. We have written to the government, the ministry and its agencies, to engage them and try to solve the problem. So following from that, our next thing was to appeal to the teachers to call off the strike and see reason in negotiation with the government to try and solve the problem. We did not wait for them to go on the strike. Negotiations were going on between them from their own release. They have been engaging the ministry or the government for some time. And that whilst they are negotiating, we all hope that something good comes out of it. So if at a point in time they hit a deadlock and they are unable to agree, the next step, as required or provided by the law or practice, is to report to the National Labour Commission that we put our grievances before our employers. We have been meeting on it. We have not been able to reach an agreement. In the circumstances, we are calling for your intervention, or else we have no option than to proceed on strike when the negotiations are going on. It is not for a party to go on strike, wear red armbands, or do anything that will intimidate the other party. You see, that will not bring fairness. I am aware that the action following from our letter, they have already sent invitation to them for tomorrow and the next. We give them 7 days. But I am aware that letters of invitation have already gone out to them.
Let's have a conversation on the back of this. And Kwesi Kwatin is the Public Relations Officer at the Ministry of Education. He joins me on phone for more on the teacher union's strike, demanding for 20% cost of living allowance. Good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Students are in school without teachers. What is your immediate move, first of all, to ensure the safety of these students without teachers regulating their movement?
Okay, very well. Thank you, and a very good afternoon to you and your viewers. Yes, clearly we are aware of the strike, and we also know that strike actions all over the world, no matter how unfortunate they may be, is inevitable. And so when it happens like that quickly, there have to be some plans or some measures that must be put in place to make sure that the impact is not that very dire or devastating.
Right. This is obviously not the first time the teacher unions are striking, but What is the Ministry of Education, to a larger extent, government doing to ensure that they return back to the classroom?
Yeah, so that's what I was coming at. So in the interim, the arrangement is that heads of schools, through the, of course, in collaboration with the directors and the regional directors and the district directors of education, make sure that they take care of the school children, especially within those in the boarding schools. When it comes to the primary or the JHS levels, to schools will also be opened, and the heads are expected to assist the students who probably may come to school. But in the interim, plans are far advanced for the Ghana Education Service to engage the leadership of the teacher unions. Of course, it's just towards developing that very roadmap that will seek to the amicable resolution of this strike impasse that has.
So is government ready to meet their 20% cost of living allowance demands?
Government is ready to engage them based on the concerns that they've raised. When it comes to matters of negotiation, obviously it's not about a position of one party. It is about the two parties building a consensus, and building a consensus will mean that there have to be compromises, there have to be improvisations, there have to be some shifting of various positions that people or parties have already decided upon. And that is going to be established through today's meeting. And so we are going to, by close of the day, we should find a roadmap that seeks to resolve this.
Are you saying by close of the week you're going to find a resolution to the matter?
The expectation is that as soon as possible, we should be able to find a resolution to the matter. But of course, finding a resolution clearly is not an event. The Ghana Education Service is doing their part. Ministry of Education, largely, we are doing our part. If you look at the issue of strike, it's purely a labor issue.
Right.
But of course, Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, Finance, all the stakeholders are involved to make sure that the employee-employer relationship is really not destroyed, so that the impact on our students will not be devastating.
Is the Ministry of Education aware that some national service personnel are being compelled to teach the students due to the unavailability of the teachers?
I'm not sure it's about compelling. National service personnel ordinarily are expected to be at post. National service personnel do not belong to any of the aforementioned teacher unions, being it NAT, being it NAGAT, being it KU or CCT. And so they are expected to also help with the other management aspects of the school, especially as a temporary measure, whilst we look at a very permanent solution to getting our teachers back to the classroom.
Right. Kwesi Kwarteng, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. We still stay on education, as a national service staff at Ejumaji Basic School 2 in the Central Region has been tasked to teach after 4 teacher union groups began their nationwide strike over their cost of living allowance. The 4 teacher unions jointly signed a statement on Monday, 4th June 2022, stating that the lack of adherence on the part of the government to their demand has necessitated during last year, December 2021. On the first day of the strike, Tuesday, Metro News visited some public schools in Mankasim municipalities and met Samuel, a national service personnel who is not happy about the situation.
I came to see what is going on in the school. I came to see what is going on as well. In my intention that maybe I'll come and meet some of the teachers here or the headmistress to know maybe how we are going to the activity of today. So, but unfortunately, as I came, I don't see anybody here. They normally come early, the teachers. As I speak to you, all of them are supposed to be here. But because of yesterday, the news came out that the teachers are going on strike. I'm the only person who is here. I cannot say whether they are, I cannot actually know whether they are coming or not. But I know that before, by this time, all of them are supposed to be here. But today be different. I've not seen any teacher here, even the headmistress in the school. I've not seen her, but I cannot tell whether she's coming or not. But what I know that I am here because I'm a national service personnel.
We have to study. We will need their help. And since they are not here, it will be difficult for us. Government should do anything possible to help the teachers so that they can support us.
So the Ghana Education Service has directed heads of senior high schools to mobilize their management teams to ensure the safety and well-being of all students in schools. GES further directed heads of basic schools not to shut down their facilities despite the ongoing strike by teachers. We're crossing over to some regions now to gauge how this directive is being followed. What is happening with the students, especially those whose practical exams have been put on hold? Let's start from the northern region where my colleague Al-Hassan Dibaba is on standby. Dibaba, welcome to the program. Have you visited some schools at the moment, and what more can you tell us?
All right, thank you so much, Kenneth. This morning, I started my visit at the Denbom DA Primary School in the Tolong district of the Northern Region, where schools were open, but no teacher was around to attend to the people in those schools. I also visited one to DA Primary, one to RC, and Chifoyili DA JSS. And in all those schools, teachers were not there to supervise the students, and every student were doing what they wanted on campus. Okay. Nobody was around to supervise them. I also visited some schools where there were teachers, but they were not doing anything. In fact, I spoke to some of the teachers off camera, and they told me that they are just in the school to do their own things and not to do anything education related. So I visited Tolong Senior High School as well, where teachers supervise the mock exams of the third year students as they are writing their exams currently. But the other students, talking of the first years and the second years, no teacher attended to them. So in the northern region, basically, schools are open, but no teacher is attending to them. In fact, in one of the schools here in the northern region where I visited, students were sent to the farm of one of the teachers to farm for him because they have nothing doing in the school. So students are playing here and there without any teacher attending to them. Right. So the teachers are adhering to the directive by their unions to be on strike.
Right. There are cases, especially in the central region, where national service personnel are compelled to teach in the stead of teachers. Are we seeing a similar case in the northern region?
Well, in all the schools, I visited about 27 schools in the northern region this morning up till now, and I've not encountered anything like that because almost all the schools that I visited, no teacher was doing anything like teaching or supervising students to do anything. So in the northern region, I have not encountered anything yet of that nature, but I will still continue the visit to see if there will be something like that in the northern region.
How about the non-teaching staff, like the women who cook for the students and all that? Are they at post providing services to the students?
In fact, the cooks, they stopped cooking not today. So no anything, like nobody was in the schools attending to the students, like I mentioned. None of the non-teaching staff were in the school. The teachers I even met, or the men I met in those schools, there were even teachers who said they were not there to teach or do anything education related, but they were there to do their own thing. So in the northern region, there's nothing like that.
Right. Al-Hassan Dibaba, thank you very much for your time. He's our resident correspondent in the northern region. Now, the National Union of Ghana Students have responded to the strike from the National Union of Graduate Teachers. In the press release acknowledging other teacher unions, it said, as a mother union of all student unions, we acknowledge the Akan adage that says that when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. Hence, students will be the ultimate victims should the simmering tension between government and the labor unions persist. Also, it further stated that despite all this, students is calling on government to properly engage labor unions to address their concerns and avert further disruptions that NAGRAT strike will have on the academic calendar and students as a whole. Let's now cross over to the Ashanti region to see how the strike is affecting students there. Our resident correspondent, Abdul Basit Suleiman, joins me on phone for more. Basit, welcome to the program. Hello, Basit.
Thank you, Ken.
Right. What more can you tell us from the Ashanti region?
Yeah, the strike action has taken effect here in Ashanti Region. This morning, I've been to a lot of schools, particularly with the basic school. Academic activity was at a halt this morning in almost all the basic schools in the region. You will see a lot of school children playing outside the classroom. However, when you go to the senior high schools, the situation is different. Even though there are no teachers in the class, but all the students are sitting in the class, particularly at Osetri Secondary School. The mock examination is going on right now as I'm speaking with you, but it was being supervised by national service personnel over here at Osetri Secondary School in Kumasi here. There are no teacher on campus. The few that you see are also sitting under the tree, just conversing.
Okay.
Some of the students too are just standing at the corridors of their classrooms, and there is no, apart from those writing the mock, there is no teaching and learning here at Osetri Secondary School.
Right.
Almost all the basic school, the children have gotten a full day today because there are no teachers in class, there is no control. You see them roaming about. Some of them too are playing all over the schools.
Right, Bassett, you have mentioned that it is national service personnel who are supervising the exam. Do we have a case where non-teaching staff are also called in to supervise the exam?
I've not yet seen a non-teaching staff. Almost all those I met here are national service personnel, even though the non-teaching staffs, particularly the security and major, some of them are on campus here, but apart from the security personnel who are minding the gates, the majors and the rest are all sitting idle.
Abdul Suleiman, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed with what's happening in the Ashanti region.
Thank you.
Now, the call to get the finance minister out of office has intensified. While some economists and the opposition NDC argue he has poorly managed the economy, some civil society organizations are worried about the finance ministry leaving the information minister to defend government's economic policies.
Some economists argue that earlier assurances from government about the economy were not from an informed position. They cite government's reliance on an IMF bailout to rescue the ailing Ghanaian economy as indications of hiding the real state of the economy. This, they believe, is the reason for the clamor on the finance minister Ken Ofori-Atta to be sacked.
A finance minister that has embarrassed the president several times is still at post. And your record too is not good. And I think that he qualifies as the worst finance minister we've ever had in the Fourth Republic. No two ways about that. And so he does not have the right to lead this particular negotiation. He does not. He does not qualify in any way.
Former President John Dramani Mahama has on several occasions also called for the head of the finance minister.
Those directly responsible for the economic crisis must bear responsibility. And it is inconceivable that the Minister of Finance remains at post. Having presided over the worst economic meltdown in Ghana's recent history, the President must, as a matter of urgency and without further delay, relieve the Minister of Finance of his position. It is now beyond debate that we currently find ourselves in an almost hopeless situation, which we will remain in until very drastic and far-reaching steps are taken to get out of this mess. This is devastating news for any economy, let alone one plagued with the deep-seated problems that we have. He should fire his finance minister. He should conduct a major shake-up of his government.
The Minister for Information, Kojo Oponen-Nkrumah, however, has a totally different opinion.
The minister and his team are putting their details together. They will come back to the task force the president chairs, and the president is responsible for economic policy. I think sometimes we think that the finance minister is responsible for the economy. The finance minister actually is responsible for fiscal policy, The Bank of Ghana is responsible for monetary policy. Real sector development, broader economic policy sits with the president. He has an economic management team under him that will be doing the day-to-day management. The president is in full control of the end-of-day engagements that we'll have with the fund.
Wading into the conversation is the senior vice president and policy analyst at Imani Ghana, Kofi Bentel, who has advised government to entirely review the work of the finance ministry.
Somebody made a statement the other time that there are deputy ministers who are more powerful than the vice president. I don't think that's true. But why are they making those statements? I think it's time for us to take a good look at the finance ministry setup. There are so many deputy ministers there, okay? And I think the president should take a look at that because that team clearly has failed. And so, to the extent that the finance minister has to bear ultimate responsibility, that call is not misplaced. But I think the president should take a big look and redo the finance ministry and set things right.
Prior to the passage of the e-levy, top government officials, including Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the finance minister, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, had indicated strongly that the government would never return to the International Monetary Fund (IMF) for any financial assistance, regardless of the country's economic conditions, in pressing on Ghanaians to support the controversial e-levy.
Right, after the break, we will engage an economist on more of the reasons Ghana has gone for an IMF bailout. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Government of Ghana has given answers to some frequently asked questions by Ghanaians concerning the country's return to the IMF for a bailout. Let's have a look at them. So some of the questions are, will government terminate the e-levy because IMF will give Ghana money? This is what the government has to say. It says, no, government is committed to ensuring the smooth operationalization of all taxes, including the e-levy. That means government is not cancelling the e-levy because we're going to the IMF. Another question is, at what stage is Ghana's economic crisis? And government says Ghana's economy is facing external shocks emanating from the scarring effect of the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russian-Ukraine war. And this one says, does going to the IMF mean suspension of government programs and expenditures? Government says no. The member country has primary responsibility for selecting, designing and implementing policies to make the IMF-supported program successful. So government says they are not going to cancel the flagship programs because we are going to the IMF. And this question says, at what stage is Ghana's economic crisis? And the answer from government says yes, although not fully blown. So government has admitted that we're in crisis, but it is not a fully blown crisis. And it continues by saying the whole world, including Ghana, is facing a crisis, although each country is at a different stage. And this one says, will the IMF solve the rise in inflation? The answer from government is the design of the program will address inflation through strong and credible fiscal adjustment and reduction in government borrowing. So this was issued by the Ministry of Finance. So Daniel Neem is an economic expert and he joins me on phone for more on this. Thank you very much for joining me, Dan. Are you surprised that government says the e-levy will not be cancelled even after going to the IMF?
Hello, thank you very much. I am not. I am not because where I sit, I'm beginning to believe that even the introduction of the e-levy could possibly be a precondition for the IMF bailout. So I'm not surprised at all that government will still honor with the e-levy.
Right.
And it is just a clear indication that the government financial position is not at its best. So, of course, government will exploit as many revenue as possible that could come to the revenue stream.
Right.
So, to answer you in a very simplistic manner, I am not surprised at all.
Right. Government has attributed the high level of inflation to COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine crisis, hence the need to go to IMF. Is that really the case?
Not really. We not really. The impact of COVID-19 and that of Ukraine-Russia crisis could, in a way, play a role, but that is not the key or the fundamental cause for our economic woes as we find ourselves, simply because we couldn't manage our expenditure very well, we couldn't beef up revenue mobilization, and we couldn't make the right investment into the economy. So to me, these are the critical things that have created the kind of challenge, not necessarily, because if you recall, even right after the peak of the COVID, the economy started gearing up, and then thereafter, things started going very bad. Even during the peak of COVID, we have received sufficient financial resources. It wasn't that government have to, so to speak, take money from its coffers to be able to spend on COVID-19. We received money from the IMF. We received money from the World Bank. Internally, we've created a COVID-19 relief fund. People have donated into that. So COVID-19, yes, but this is COVID-19 to me is not a fundamental cause of the economic woes we currently facing as a nation.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Continue, please.
As for the external shock is global, but the point is that if your internal capacity in terms of your macroeconomic indicators are not so resilient and robust, anytime there's an external shock, you could be hit very hard, and that is exactly what is happening to us.
Right.
So what is happening to us is a manifestation of the degree of robustness of our economy. So our economy wasn't really robust as and the resilience that government has created.
Right.
The feature.
Okay, interesting. Government also says the IMF bailout will attract 0% interest. Can you enlighten us on that? Right. Unfortunately, we've lost Daniel Neem there, who is an economic expert who was explaining to us some of the answers government has given us, the reasons for going to the IMF. Now, Deputy Energy Minister Andrew Ejapa-Mensah says the sole reason government is running to the International Monetary Fund for bailout is the clear failure of policies they implemented, such as e-levy and cutting cost on expenditure. He says Ghanaians should not hold an entrenched position because seeking a bailout will protect the economy from collapse.
And the expectation was that by mid to end year, if the program runs successfully, we would clearly be in a position to then have a handle on our finances. But we've all seen the performance of the e-levy. Of course, the brouhaha that was associated with this passage, the delay and ultimate passage and implementation on May 1st. Clearly, the numbers are not in a position to then provide government with the kind of comfort that it needed. And so, obviously, you then have to take a decision whether you would be political, if you like, because, of course, our friends on the other side were always insisting that go to IMF, go to IMF, go to IMF, or that you be nationalistic in your decision-making by taking a step that then protects the national interest. And I think that that's what government has done, because clearly the burden share measures that were put in place is not yielding the desired result. And so it's important to safeguard the economy, which has been the bedrock of all the decisions that we've taken right from 2017 to date, ought to be taken to ensure that this economy does not grind to a halt. Okay, so you see, I expect His Excellency.
Now, the MP for Yape Kusogu, John Jinapo, says the government made going to the International Monetary Fund a mark of incompetence even after COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war. John Jinapo added that the economic hardship should be blamed on the poor policies and bad governance.
The minister came and said, look, because of COVID, Ghanaians must tighten their belts. One, salaries will be increased by only 4%. That is the first thing. We would introduce what we call a COVID recovery levy. We had to absorb it. We introduce what we call sanitation or is it pollution something levy? Yes. We said that. Ejapa talks about energy sector payments. He said because of the energy sector payments, I'm introducing what I call energy sector recovery levy, new one. We agreed. And then because of the old debt too, energy sector levies itself had been increased by 30%. We accepted it. And he said because of financial sector bailout, I'm introducing financial sector recovery levy. We accepted it. So Ghanaians have sacrificed enough. We've accepted all these tax handles in 2021. But we kept warning them that, look, this is your revenue projections. It won't work. Your expenditure is too much. Begin some expenditure rationalization, cut back a bit so that you can make savings. They did not listen. They then went and borrowed so much. And if you read the annual debt report, especially the 2021 one, you see that all the borrowings were non-concessional. Almost about 80 something. I will open the. Yes. I have the records. Yes.
Let's now take you to Parliament, where the Deputy Ranking Member on Parliament's Finance Committee, Isaac Addo, has attributed Ghana's decision to run to the International Monetary Fund for a bailout to government's excessive borrowing and unsustainable debt levels. During a press conference a while ago, the Bolga Central MP rebuffed suggestions by government officials that the COVID-19 pandemic and Ukraine conflict are to blame for the worsening economic conditions. He also says the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, lacks the technical competence to lead the decisions with a team from the IMF. Now, my colleague, Abdallah Mohammed, is in Parliament and joins us live with more. Hello, Abdallah. What more can you tell us from Parliament?
This was the man who was doing inflation calculation at Malata, and you were clapping for him. Which serious economists will see stability, small stability in the market, in the forex market, and say he has arrested the cedi or the dollar? So today, if we are in this mess and we are on our way to the IMF, it is because we listen to the head of the solid economic management team, whose program's vision for Ghana constitute 90% of the budgets that they have been reading and the program they have been running. As a matter of fact, he was the one who came out and listed all of it and said, we did better. And you were clapping. It all got worse when I started pitying my big brother, and I felt very bad. Day I saw him deliver a lecture at Yesu Krom there. Finished, and people didn't understand what he was saying. Just didn't make sense. The media was not interested in reporting him. And yet, when he sat down, I was visibly tired and sweating profusely. That day I called my brother and said, this is the beginning of the end of the scam. Scam has come to an end. Thank God we won't be hearing lectures again. Now that we are at IMF, you want this man to lead the economic management team. The head of economic management is not a constitutional imperative. And I saw signs of it when they went to take the decision at Peduasi. You saw who was chairing. You know, Osafo chaired that meeting. The president was even out of town. So whether it was a cabinet, it was economic management team. Who chairs the cabinet when the president is not around? Vice president. And cabinet was there seriously deciding whether we should go to IMF or not. The president is out and the vice president was nowhere. And on Safumafu, the president trusted his economic advisor.
Meanwhile, Isaac Addo has warned the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral to resign immediately or face future legal actions for the alleged misappropriation of public funds.
The biggest challenge we have now is not when we will have a program.
Right, we're...
Soft lecture. Okay, he's a pastor. A former, okay. Did you people listen to him? He said he is the head of the trustees. But if we want to know how they procured the services of contractor and people here, we should go and ask government. If we want to know the releases that were made, whether they were legal, we should ask government. And that the Attorney General will be responding to those matters of financial and the rest. Professor Nina, I want to tell you very good advice as a big brother, possibly a father, that being a member of the board or a trustee of an organization is a serious legal matter that impose the highest standards of fiduciary on you. You have responsibility for the financial management of the organization. You have responsibility for the procurement activities of the organization. And you have responsibility for legal and regulatory compliance of the organization. A breach of any of these have dire consequences. So for you to be alluding to the fact that all these responsibilities that are imposed on you as a member of the board are not being performed by you but by somebody else tells me you are not even qualified to be on that trustee board. So you are there as what? Professor Nina, the name. No responsibilities. He should just pray that this matter never goes to port. And the board of directors are arraigned before a court of competent jurisdiction to answer for how they steered their fiduciary responsibilities to that cathedral.
Away from Parliament, heavy rains have left some parts of Accra flooded again. The rains, which started around 4 a.m. on Tuesday, lasted for several hours, leaving principal streets in Accra flooded. Some commuters in the capital have been badly affected as roads leading to their workplaces and schools have been disrupted.
Affected areas in Tuesday morning's rains include the Central Business District of Accra, Kwame Nkrumah Interchange, Odona, Shiashi, Mataheko, Kaneshi First Light, among others. The Ghana Meteorological Agency, in a Facebook post, said the rains are expected to persist into late morning. Persons living around flood-prone areas are advised to take precautions and stay safe. In Ghana, heavy rains are recorded in June and July. During this period, residents are advised to avoid flood-prone areas. The major causes of flood has often been attributed to building on waterways, indiscriminate disposal of refuse, and choked drainage systems. There have been several attempts to curb the issue of flooding, but whenever it rains, parts of the capital continue to flood.
So I've been joined on phone by the head of Central Analysis and Forecasting Office at the Ghana Meteorological Service, Felicity Afianyo, to have a conversation on the back of the rain patterns for this month. Felicity, always good to have you on the show. Are we to expect more rains this week?
Thank you very much. But just one correction. We are no more services. We are now agencies. So we are Ghana Meteorological Agency. For the rain for this week, yes, we still have some rain for the country. We are expecting ISO to scattered cases from yesterday through to Sunday, but then it's going to vary, or it's not going to occur at the same time over the entire country.
Right. Felicity, let me ask you this. So when it was raining this morning, I checked my phone for a weather update to see what it would tell me. It told me that mostly cloudy instead of telling me that rains or something. You told me the last time that the Ghana Meteorological Agency does not have any app to check the weather pattern. So who provides that weather update on the internet?
Per the understanding I got, we have this Google Weather app, we have the Akuffo Weather app, and then we have those forecasts that are based on satellite and other models that they are running. So they are coming in and then they are giving those forecasts. But when it comes to Ghana Meteorological Agency, we have only flood alert app that is functioning now. When it comes to the Google Weather app, we are now developing it. It's not ready yet. Once it's ready, we will release it into the public domain. But what we are doing now is purely the social media type of update, where we prepare the forecast 3 times in a day: the morning, the afternoon, and the evening. So this morning, before 6 a.m., the morning forecast was released, where the rain was captured in for Accra, Aflau, and some other areas. And then the afternoon is ready by 11, which was also released. Then the evening one for today will also be released around 4:30, which will take effect from 6 p.m. So when you pick it now, you now have the individual hours. We have a 6 hours. So you have the afternoon. If you pick the afternoon today, you have today's afternoon, you have today's evening, and then tomorrow morning. If you pick the evening today, it will tell you how the weather will be at selected cities today evening, tomorrow morning, and then tomorrow afternoon. So we are always on the go giving the update.
Thank you very much. Felicity Ahafianyo is with the Ghana Meteorological Agency. It's time for business, and Winston Taki is standing by with the latest. Winston, take us away.
All right, it's time to bring you business right after this. And now to our first business story. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, global revenues associated with the trade of illegal pesticides are estimated at $10 billion. Meanwhile, CropLife Ghana has discovered that about 35% of imported fertilizers into the country are fake.
So to help the law enforcement authority for the proper enforcement of law in the country to deter illegal trade of pesticide, and also sensitize them on the need to enforce proper judicial and penal sanction against offenders, because it's a harm to the economy of the country, and at the first place the agricultural economy of our country. Provide resources to these institutions, namely Ghana EPA, PPRSD, and the customs services, so that we are the first contact of those illegal trade, and through this we can deter the illegal trade of pesticide in the country.
Meanwhile, President Akuffo Addo has urged the private sector players to spur Ghana's development. He assured government is creating the needed environment for their businesses to thrive, hence the need to take advantage of the opportunities to engender economic growth.
The engagement between government and the private sector was part of a broader effort to quicken Ghana's economic growth through private sector participation.
At least there is yet no evidence of any country in the world where they've achieved sustained prosperity through government. It doesn't happen anywhere. Even in centrally planned economies like China and the Asian tigers. It was only when China decided to open up and put the private sector, even if it is veiled, to put private sector at the center of China's development, that things started beginning to happen.
President Akuffo Addo said the establishment of the Development Bank Ghana is timely to support local businesses.
See its impact, but a lot is being done to promote this partnership, this central partnership, which I believe is essential for the growth of our country. One of the latest such initiatives, which I'm particularly excited about, is the establishment of the Development Bank of Ghana. Inspired very much, once again, by the examples of other places, the KfW in Germany and its role in the so-called German miracle, a development bank that assisted the commercial banks, the banking system, to mobilize long-term funding for private sector development. Most of the analyses that have been done of where the private sector in Ghana has always identified that as one of our major constraints for the sustained growth and development of the private sector. the inability to access long-term.
That'll be all for business here on Newsbeat. My name is Winston Taki. We take a break. We'll be back with sports after this break.
You're welcome back. And in sports today, former Black Stars captain Asamoah Gyan has applauded the Ghana Football Association for the continuous improvement in the standard of the Ghana Premier League. According to the former Legon City striker, although the league has seen significant improvement in terms of player quality and coverage, the FA still has a lot of work to do.
It's improving, it's improving, talking about the publicity. Now most of the games are shown live, which is very, very good, and it's good for outsiders to even see the players we have here in Ghana, and it's good for the players to also showcase their talent to the whole world. Before we play in the league and nobody sees us, so that's the most important thing. The FA is doing an incredible job. They've been able to get a company that can telecast live. Sometimes when we are outside, we even tune in and then watch, so it's a very good thing. And talking about the individual players, I've seen some players who are very, very good, but the most important thing is consistency.
It's now time for entertainment, and Desmond is standing by with the latest.
Up next is the entertainment news. My name is Desmond Okreku. In entertainment, award-winning Ghanaian gospel musician Joe Mettle has called for more support for the gospel music industry in the country, saying songs from musicians are making impact across the globe. Speaking exclusively to Metro News on royalties, he says he has received some monies from the Ghana Music Rights Organization, GAMRO, and says that he is waiting for more.
I think it's a blessing, if you ask me. Gospel music is a blessing. See, we don't even have an idea sometimes how far some of the music that people are doing here are going. I thought also, when you're here, you assume that, but you go to other places across the globe and you hear people speaking about some of the amazing stuff people are doing this side. If we will also even sometimes see that way, it would really go a long way in putting even Ghana on the map. I think I am. I received some money. It's not royalty. If it's royalty, it has to be plenty. So as for Gambo's royalty, we are still working on it. They said they are working on it, so we are also hoping that one day we'll get better. But at the moment.
Now, the award-winning Grammy musician Burna Boy has questioned the origin of the Afrobeat genre. According to him, he is an Afrofusion artist and does not agree to all the new forms of African music classified as Afrobeat. He was speaking on the $1 million worth of game show in the USA.
It's like the same way you're not going to say Houston was a rapper because rap is the most popping thing now.
Right.
You understand? And she's American, so she must be a rapper.
Right.
I can't accept that because I'm not a rapper.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You understand? Because so now it's like in Africa, when you talk about music, first thing they say Afrobeat.
So who gave that Afrobeats the name? Was that developed in Africa, or did the States put that on y'all?
Afrobeat is Fela Kuti. It's a legend called Fela Kuti. That's his.
Your grandfather managed him.
Yeah, and that's Afrobeat. They needed to call it something to be able to
identify with.
Yes, you understand. And somehow they just said Afrobeat and added an S. I don't know how. I don't know what sense even that made. But we had High Life. We have Juju music, we have Fuji music, we have all types of music. We have South African Kwaito music, we have Amapiano now. We have all types of music, but so And we even have, to be real, we have real African hip hop, like real African, like, you know, so we have Afro pop, we have all types of genres in Africa. So to be really sincere, for you to just call everything Afrobeat, it kind of does it.
And this conversation will continue. That's it for entertainment. My name is Desmond Okrekodanso. Kenny standing by with international news.
Many thanks, Desmond. International news is next. A gunman has opened fire on a crowd gathered for an Independence Day parade outside of Chicago, killing at least 6 people and wounding 36 in the latest mass shooting incident in the United States. Thank you very much for being a part of the show this afternoon. My name is Kenneth. Yes.